let's get this review out of the way. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, and in today's video we're going to be talking about The Master of Disguise. Before we get too far into this video, I'd like to thank all of you guys for watching, and if you're new to the channel, my name is Anthony A. Perez, and you guys can expect here on the channel movie reviews, TV reviews, Star Wars content, vlogs, and all kinds of other things here on the channel. And I'm usually joined by a different guest here on the channel to have a very different opinion at times. And here in this video, I'm very happy to be welcoming my buddy BLACKTASTIC Media. So you guys can find the link to his channel down below in the description box. But a big thanks to you, my friend BLACKTASTIC, for being here in this video once again. Always a pleasure to have you here on the channel. And let's go ahead and get into my thoughts right now on The Master of Disguise, and then we'll hear from BLACKTASTIC in just a little bit. So The Master of Disguise stars Dana Carvey in our lead role as Pistachio Disguisey, a man who's part of a long lineage of Masters of Disguise who are essentially super secret spies that essentially have the ability to become anybody they want to become, to get in and out of situations and do what they need to do to get through these spy missions. And they decided to retire from that life right before Pistachio was born, or right when Pistachio was born, and now he does not have that same skill set. However, his whole life there's been something that's been calling him to disguise. He acts like different people. He has this inability to not mimic people when he sees them. He just has to mimic people. He just has to put on funky and weird outfits. It just kind of calls to him. And he learns later on in his life, after his father is kidnapped, that he is a part of this lineage of Master of Disguise. And now for the first time of his life, he's got to become a Master of Disguise to save his father. That's the basic premise of this film. This film, like a lot of films from the late 90s and early 2000s, was definitely playing off of that James Bond spoof kind of thing that we saw in tons of movies. And just overall in this time frame, there was a lot of the over-the-top super spy kind of agent kind of movies. You know, you had Austin Powers, you have this one, you have, you know, I don't know, Agent Cody Banks. There was just a lot of movies of this little time frame that very much were of this kind of over-the-top super spy kind of film. And yeah, you know what I'll say right out of the gate is I am a huge fan of that kind of movie. I have a lot of fun with that genre. There's a lot of really silly, good things that can be done with it. And I am a fan of things like Austin Powers and a lot of slapstick comedy. With all that said, this is a horrible movie for me. As far as a narrative structure goes, it's terrible. There's nothing to latch on to as a viewer. There's no characters to ever care for at any point. Now, in no way, shape, or form when I threw this movie on did I expect an Oscar-winning film or anything at all that was going to be some sort of grounded narrative. Like, you just have to know what you're watching before you get into it. I knew when I started this movie that this was the one where the guy goes, "Turtle, turtle." I just had never seen it before. I remember seeing the marketing for this film, which kind of led to some nostalgic moments while I was watching the movie, because there were certain lines of dialogue or shots that I remember seeing in all the trailers, but this was never a movie I just ever got around to seeing back in 2002. And so now that I saw the movie and have no nostalgia for it, yeah, this movie's pretty bad. The narrative, like I said, is hollow. There's nothing there. It's a pretty much aimless movie that doesn't really have much to ever latch onto as far as the characters and as far as the stakes. And beyond that, it's toilet humor. It's potty humor. It's not funny to me in any way, shape, or form. And I do want to emphasize the fact that I am a fan of slapstick comedy. I am a fan of very silly, over-the-top comedy. This movie just didn't land for me. And that's a huge reason why I don't do a lot of comedy here on the channel. I may do movies that have comedy in it, and I may be able to praise those moments. But when it comes to real comedy films, I don't do a whole bunch here on the channel simply because comedy is so subjective. I recently rewatched this movie for my buddy David from his channel Interpreting the Stars, where I joined him to talk about the movie, and he liked the movie. He's a big fan of the movie, and I definitely did not like the film at all. And we're going to be hearing from BLACKTASTIC in just a little bit, but even he has a slightly different opinion on the film. We both agree that the film's pretty terrible, but he seemed to enjoy it a little bit more than me. And so I'll let him speak for himself in just a little bit. But yeah, what I can say about this movie overall for me is that it's just hollow. There's not much to it, and it's pretty cringe. There's a lot of lines of dialogue and certain moments and certain performances that are just kind of hard to watch, you know? I was watching with my fiance, who was a huge fan of it apparently when she was a kid. When we started watching it, she said that she was a fan of it as a kid, and as the movie was going on, she was just face-palming the whole time because she couldn't find it funny either. The movie really isn't funny, and there really is nothing to latch onto. Now, one thing I do want to praise about this movie, and I think the best part about this movie, is the costume design, the set design, and the overall production design of this film. Which leads me into my thoughts on the director of this film, Perry Andelin Blake, who who predominantly works in this industry as somebody in production design, in set design, and it 100% shows in this film. As far as how this film looks, it's a well shot, well put together film. There's a lot about the aesthetic of this film that is well put together. The costume design, again, the set design, the full over production design of this film is really solid, and I think that that's where Perry Andelin Blake definitely showed his strengths. This was also the first and only film he ever directed, and I'm not surprised, because as a movie overall, even though it may have some pieces that are positive, it's just not a good comedy, it's not a good movie, it's not a good story, and it's not really a good character piece. There's nothing about this movie outside of the visuals, which are good for what it is, but it's not like amazing. Yeah, there's nothing outside of that that really has anything for you to really bite onto when you watch this film. Dana Carvey, though, I will say, is somebody I can definitely commend for his performance in this film. He goes all out. He's doing all kinds of voices. He's putting on all kinds of different kind of, vibes and dialects, and he's really going for it, especially when he's doing all the characters and he's doing all these different voices and he's having to put on different makeup and stuff like that. He definitely commits to all of this. And as I was watching it, the thing I could praise the most beyond the set design and all that was Dana Carvey really committing himself to these different characters and these different sketches. This very much feels like just a bunch of SNL sketches just kind of slammed into a movie. And so it doesn't really feel like a movie. The movie, as far as the narrative, again, is just crap. There's nothing to attach to in any way, shape, or form. And so you would hope that the humor would be there for it. But for me, it was just a bunch of running gags that aren't really funny. I never laughed while watching the movie, and if I did, I was laughing at the movie and never with the movie. I should also mention that this film also stars Jennifer Esposito, James Brolin, and Harold Gould, who is my favorite part of the film. He played the grandfather in the movie, who I found to be the better performance in the film. I found that Harold Gould's performance as the grandfather was the best performance. And actually, I did lie a moment ago saying that I never laughed with the movie. I did laugh with the movie when it came to Harold Gould. There were a couple moments, even though he's not in the movie a whole bunch, that definitely were the funnier moments in the film because his line delivery was actually funny. But yeah, outside of Harold Gould, there really isn't much more to attach to, and even he didn't really get me attached to the movie. He made me laugh a couple times. So now that I've given my general thoughts on this interesting film, let's go ahead and hear what BLACKTASTIC had to say about this.
Yo, what's up? I'm back on Planet Perez doing another collab with my main man. The Master of Disguise is a unique film. Came out back the summer of 2002. Now let's go back in time, give this film a backdrop with a little bit of history. Dana Carvey comes from Saturday Night Live. So does Mike Myers and a lot of people, A lot of these people had nice breaks in film, took off. Mike Myers had Austin Powers, Adam Sandler blew up, we know that. Dana Carvey got kind of left behind. Now, he was in Wayne's World 1 and 2, but he was the side character next to Mike Myers' character. And time went on. He never really got a break. His homeboy, his buddy, his confidant said, look, I have a movie production company, Happy Madison. I'll produce your film. You're great at doing characters on SNL. Let's cater to your strength and make a whole movie about that. So thanks to Adam Sandler for getting this film made. Dana Carvey is known for doing impersonations, and that's pretty much it. Not really my kind of guy when it comes to comedy, but you gotta give a guy a chance. The premise of this movie, he comes from a lineage of a family that are master of disguises, hence his name, Pistachio Disguising. Can't make this shit up. Well, his father gets kidnapped by the villain, Brett Spiner. Yeah, the guy from Star Trek, Data. Guys, I'm not really like a nerd like a lot of people are on YouTube. I don't read comic books and stuff. I'm not really into that kind of thing. I like the movies. I'm more of a movie guy. But the nerd in me comes out when it comes to Star Trek. I am a Trekkie. I'm that guy from that movie you seen, Boomerang with Eddie Murphy. Smooth, cool, collective, but I love Star Trek. Damn, Perez, I hate to do this, but I know you're a Star Wars guy. And I really, really, really like Star Wars. When I was a kid, I loved it. The original, trilogy. Don't care for the other films too much. Now, Star Trek, I'm a true Trekkie. I love Star Trek. If I had to choose a Star Wars movie over an episode of Star Trek, Star Wars will lose every time. Oh, I know, brother, it's blasphemy on this channel, but I gotta say what it is. I am a Trekkie. I like Star Wars. I dig it. I need something for up here. Star Wars is like action, fun. Dig it. Star Trek is for the brain. It makes you think. It's more intellectual. But I digress. I apologize. Perez, I'm sorry for going on about Star Trek on your channel, but please forgive me. Yes, come on. I can do impersonations of Captain Kirk. But yeah, Data's in this movie as the villain, which is hilarious. And I gotta put this into words. When he laughs uncontrollably, he farts every time. That's his character. When he's laughing, he farts. That's what he's known for as a villain. Well, he kidnaps Dana Carvey's father to make him come out of retirement and start wearing disguise to help him steal some stuff and sell it on the internet. There's your plot. Dana Carvey works for his father at this restaurant. When he's kidnapped, he's feeling bad. But Dana Carvey has this unique disorder. Like, if you talk with an accent or talk funny, he looks at you and mimics you, and he can't help it. He just does it. He's subject to doing that. He's a terrible waiter. He's only there because of who his daddy is. His grandfather comes into the picture. He said, look, grandson, it's time to open up your lineage to know your true powers. There's mystical and magical stuff in this film to becoming a master of disguise. Well, you got this little ball, opens up things. He has an assistant, beautiful lady does his assistant. And unlock your true talent. Go find your father and see who kidnapped him and bring him home. He's like a detective all of a sudden with all these gimmicks and outfits and unique accents and the way he talks. And that's his thing. This is what he's known for. This movie is terrible. This movie is downright terrible. It is a disgusting project of a film. Yet, I laughed my ass off. This movie is ridiculously funny. A little history. This movie had a production budget of $16 million. It made 43. In Hollywood, this movie is a success. It didn't lose money, it made money. Every critic craps on this film, and I see why. It's terrible. But comedy is a weird thing. Certain things make people laugh and certain things don't. I think sometimes critics, if they don't laugh, then the movie's bad. Yeah, the movie is bad, but man, I laughed my ass off. This dude had me rolling. These characters he's playing, these outfits he's wearing, and dude came to a party as a turtle man. He had a shell with his green three-piece suit, and it's uncomfortable to watch, but it's hilarious. There's a scene these guys are picking on him. He goes into his shell. He pops up and bites a dude's nose off. Yeah. Then he spits the nose back at him and lands right back in the right spot. Weird shit. Then he gets on the ground and starts breakdancing, spinning around, waving his arms. Funny, but stupid. He does an impersonation of Tony Montana. He does all these characters. One of my favorites, he does the guy from Jaws. And he starts speaking gibberish. And man, I'm falling out my seat laughing. This dude, for a white dude, has some incredible, unique rhythm when it comes to dancing. He dances as Abraham Lincoln. He dances at, man, I'm dying laughing when Dana Carvey is dancing. The dude, he's uniquely funny. This movie killed his career. In the last 20 plus years, he's probably made 4 films. In 2 of those, he was a voice actor working with Adam Sandler in those Dracula cartoon movies. This movie banished him from Hollywood. It's jacked up. Hollywood is the movie was successful by all means. He was supposed to make a sequel to this. They said, nah, bruh, you're done. But yeah, my favorite character besides Dana is definitely Brett Spinner's character. This dude is laughing uncontrollably and farting. There's a scene where he's walking out the door. He can't stop laughing and he's farting continuously as he's walking out the door laughing. It's disgusting. It is hilarious. It's low-brow humor. Oh, you laugh at fart jokes? Yeah, I do, I guess. It's funny. This is kind of like remind me of Jim Carrey's breakout role in Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. He got to do what he did best. And that's what Dana Carvey got a chance to do in this movie. I have to say, it's uniquely entertaining. I'm glad my man brought this up because I remember when it came out back in the day, I'm like, too much competition for him. Everybody was doing a different type of comedy. And this is kind of like a film for kids or adults that have been smoking marijuana and drinking some good juice. You know what kind of juice I'm talking about, that fire water. This movie make you laugh and it's silly as shit. But hey, it is what it is. Cinema is uniquely catered to people when it comes to certain types of films. And this film by no means is a work of art. Sit at home, pop it in, pop some popcorn, get some pizza ordered, have a drink or two or three, and this film will make you laugh. In my opinion, you know, this dude has body humor. He's jumping all over the place. He can imitate anybody voice-wise. He's a trip. He even did a woman in this film. I'm like, damn, the dude has no limitations. He can act like anybody and sound like anybody. The production on this film is pretty good. The set pieces and everything, it looks good. It's well lit. Cinematography is beautiful. It's not a bad looking film. It's just a bad film. And critics just like to have a film that they pick on. One film said this is the worst movie of 2002. That's harsh. It might be true, but that's jacked up to say, man. It's jacked up to say. Like I said, in Hollywood terms, this movie was successful. So give it a watch. You know the routine, you know the formula. Bam. Then watch it. You have a good time like I did. But yo, Perez, thank you for having me on. I appreciate you. I apologize in advance for talking about Star Trek on the Star Wars channel, but bruh, it is what it is. Scotty, beam me up. I'm out. Peace. And it's just my point of view.
A big thanks to my buddy BLACKTASTIC Media for being here in this video. Before we get too much further into my thoughts on what he said, how dare you, sir? How dare you talk about Star Wars in the way that you did? And how dare you praise Star Trek on this channel? Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? I'm just kidding, man. I do like Star Trek, actually, and I do kind of agree with you. It's definitely the more intellectual of the two, but I will say Star Wars is a little bit more intellectual than I think you're giving it credit for, and it's far more about the emotion, the feel, the vibe, the overall excitement that I think Star Wars brings to me beyond Star Trek, which can be a little bit boring at times. When I was younger, I definitely leaned into that whole Star Wars versus Star Trek thing, and as I got older, I was like, why? It's kind of like the people who still argue Marvel versus DC. Why? They can both be good. Anyway, a big thanks to my buddy BLACKTASTIC for being here in this video. Loved hearing your thoughts, man. And I loved hearing the fact that you found this movie to be funny, but you also agreed that it was terrible. So I'm glad I was able to make you laugh. You mentioned the fart joke in your bit. And yeah, you know, the villain of this film has a running gag where every time he laughs, he farts. And after the second time, I was just sitting there like, man, they're just going to keep going with this gag. It's just not funny. You know, it's the guy who plays Data in Star Trek, and I don't know what to say about it. It's just not a funny running gag in any way, shape, or form for me. You have this villain consistently laughing, and every time he laughs, it's just like an eye roll moment of like, dude, like, I get this movie's for kids, but fuck, like, this is just not funny. Like, it almost felt painful to watch in some of those sequences because it just was so consistent, you know? And again, I like silly, dumb humor, but this was not even silly or dumb humor. This was just dumb. It just was dumb. There was nothing humorous about it in any way, shape, or form for me as far as any of that went. And man, there's no character development. There's moments that will probably never be in a movie today, things that probably would offend some people. there's just so many moments in this movie that while I was watching it, I couldn't help but just kind of shake my head and facepalm thinking, wow, like I'm 50 minutes into the movie and nothing's happened. I haven't laughed once. I'm staring at the screen like this. Here comes the fart gag again. Ha ha ha. There just really was never anything to latch onto for me when it came to this movie. And so I'm going to pass it off to you guys now. Are you a fan of Master of Disguise, The Master of Disguise? Do you like this movie? Do you not like this movie? Do you think Dana Carvey was great in this film? Do you think that we should have gotten a sequel to this film? Do you think this is an underrated classic? I definitely want to hear what you guys have to say because, yeah, I definitely agree with the critics who shit on this movie. And if you guys have been watching the channel for a while, you know that I'm a fairly positive movie reviewer. I don't really crap on a whole lot of movies. There definitely are certain kinds of films that I crap on, or at least can just say that I did not like, especially when it comes to comedies like this. But beyond stuff like this, I'm pretty positive. And even some of the worst films, I still tend to have something positive to say. And this one for me, I think the worst part about it, beyond the humor not really working for me, is that there was nothing to latch onto. I didn't care about a single character. I was dying for the movie to end. And as soon as those credits rolled, I've never backed out of a streaming service faster. And I likely will never watch this movie again. So here's your review for The Master of Disguise. Definitely want to hear what you guys have to say. Do you like this movie? Do you not like this movie? If you're new to the channel, subscribe for more videos. Hit that like button, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.